God has his ways. Like I said, I was born in Chicago, and to get here, it was because of my father's job, and that's what made us move, and that's how I ended up here. So he gets you where he wants you to be. It's a personal thing. It's not just, here, have some food,
Yeah.
and good luck. Keep warm and well fed, as it says in the scripture. What good does it do for you to bring one person off the street and help them, die with dignity? And she said, well, it means a lot to them. What good does it do? Well, it meant a lot to them.
Welcome to the Exposing Catholics show, where we expose the lives, interactions, and stories of Catholics. Our guest today is Sister Emilia.
Hello.
Welcome on.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, can you kind of introduce yourself? I know I said I was going to introduce you, but I'll just say your name, and then could you introduce kind of the rest of you?
Okay. My name is Sister Emilia Castelletti. I'm a sister of Notre Dame. I've been a sister for about 54 years now. I entered back in the 1960s when I was 17 years old. And I've been a high school teacher for the majority of my career in ministry. About 5 years ago, I gave up full-time teaching in the classroom, and I now serve at NDCL as an academic coach. And that means that I have a student caseload. I monitor their grades. I counsel them on things. I encourage them when I see they need certain things to be done. And I also tutor whenever they need help. I get asked various questions. Sometimes it's just helping students to print something. Other times it's to read over a paper and make suggestions. Sometimes it's to do math problems. And occasionally I have to look up how to do them, but mostly I can remember algebra and geometry. So, and then, we do test makeup and other things. So a lot of interaction with the students, even though I'm not in front of them in a classroom anymore. So besides my teaching, my ministry career, I've also served as our novice director for the young women that were in our program for several years. I've also lately served as a kind of local coordinator for the sisters that I live with, minister to their needs, make sure that everything is going okay for the group that I live with, which there's about 35 sisters that I work with. And besides that, I've served on many different boards. I've been a chairperson. I've been a grade level moderator. You name it. It all comes with being a high school teacher and having the extra duties and things to do. So in my family life, I'm the oldest of 5, and my brothers and sisters were all still very close to each other. We keep in contact regularly. We also get together, and the last time we had my mom's funeral about 5 years ago, and I think it remained to bring us all closer because, we loved our mom. She was frail in her last years, and we all took turns taking care of her in various ways. And that helps to bring out the best qualities in your family, too. Yeah. Each one stepping up in the way they can, given their circumstances. So I do keep in touch with family. I love being part of the Sisters of Notre Dame. I've lived actually on this campus the majority of my religious life.
Wow.
I entered here in Chardon. I was here through my early years. I taught when this school was all girls still, Notre Dame Academy. Then I went to Regina High School for a number of years. And after that, I came back, and I was here during the transition when we first did the marketing and feasibility study to see if parents around here would actually send their boys to our school. And all that entailed, working through the details of making the building fit for boys as well as girls and adjusting the curriculum and all the other things. And then I've been able to watch the growth over these years, all the changes on the campus to make it the vibrant school that it is today.
Yeah.
Now, going back to your childhood, could you walk us through, what did that look like? And, what did the family kind of structure and faith look like that then? Because I wanted to lead into your call to religious life.
Okay. My parents, well, they married after World War II, and there was still a lot of people that didn't want to marry outside their ethnic group or whatever. And it turns out my mother was Polish and my father Italian, and they met at a wedding of a cousin of one of them and a friend of the other. So they were partnered for the wedding, and they began dating, and eventually they married. The Polish side of the family was more religious. The Italian side, not as much, which is very, you wouldn't think it would be that way. You would think they would be very religious too, but they weren't as much. And so we did more things, religious things with my Polish side of the family. So I had the usual. I did go to Catholic school, and my first communion, confirmation, all of those things. And we went to Mass regularly. My father himself had actually been baptized and everything when he was young. He didn't practice his faith for a while. And then when he met my mother and they wanted to marry, he decided it was time to go back to practicing the faith. And he did. He remained a faithful Catholic right up to the end of his life. So I learned things like the rosary and other things at home, in the family, the holidays, all the religious significance of things. And I think it was probably in about fourth grade that a sister came and talked to our class about being a sister. And I remember it from being that young. I thought that might be an interesting thing to do. But as a fourth grader, you don't understand much about it. I knew that they were mostly teachers. Those were the sisters I knew. And so that's what I thought about them. And then after I got to 8th grade, I was thinking about maybe joining a Franciscan order. So I actually went to their boarding school for a couple years. And it was called an aspirant school. I was just high school classes and that, but we lived in a separate area from the sisters, but on their mother house grounds. And I liked it there, but then my family moved to Ohio. We had been in the Chicago area. I forgot to say that. So when they moved to Ohio, and it was quite far away, I thought, well, maybe I'll go at least finish out my high school with them and then see if I still wanted to be a sister or not. So when we moved here, I ended up going to Regina High School, and that's when I met the Sisters of Notre Dame, and something about it just felt right. I knew that I had to at least try and see if that's what God was really asking of me, or I would always wonder,
Yeah.
So I went through the process and came out here. And then again, I kind of knew when I got here that this seemed to be what I really wanted, and what God wanted for me. And my years of formation were difficult because that was after Vatican II, and a number of religious were leaving. Some of my teachers left the community after I had entered. And so there was a real testing of do I really want to stay here when people whom I've admired and that have chosen something else? But somehow the grace was there always. And, despite the trials I went through many times, I just feel this was the right thing for me.
How did your discernment journey look when you said that you entered at 17, right?
There were a number of us. So it wasn't like today. Often when someone enters, there's only a few people with them, or sometimes they're alone. For me, it was the community aspect as much that helped to form me as much as the instructions that we got, the classes that we took, all of those things. So I think from the beginning, the community has always been important to me, kind of like family. I still have a bond with all the sisters I entered with. And we have a couple in heaven now that we pray to, but there's still a strong connection. And I think between the personal prayer, retreats, instructions and, all of that. That's how you kind of become formed. And you just have to listen to the voice of God directing you through all of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
I mean, like the first calling, it seemed like, was in 4th grade when you were it piqued your interest when the sisters were your teachers. And then to be so young at 8th grade to really, really be thinking about that and just going for it rather than kind of running away from it, like I feel a lot of people do when they feel called to religious life.
Sure, people do resist, but I always wanted to get married. I always wanted to have 10 kids. I always wanted to do, when students would ask me, well, if you didn't become a sister, what would you have been? I always tease them and say, I would have been a lounge singer, a nightclub singer. Basically, it's because of the movie Sister Act. I don't know if you remember. She was a lounge singer at the beginning.
It's a good movie.
And I said, okay, no, realistically, I would have been a teacher anyway. I always wanted to be a teacher as well.
Yeah, so
But
it worked out.
It worked out.
The best.
It worked out.
Best of both worlds.
And, God has his ways. Like I said, I was born in Chicago. And to get here to Chardon, it was because of my father's job. And that's what made us move. And that's how I ended up here. So he gets you where he wants you to be.
For sure.
And all the people I've met here, they're all a wonderful part of my life.
We've got something special for all our Catholic organizations. Now, before you skip past this part, it's not an ad. It's more like an incredible opportunity to take your digital presence to the next level. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Something only for our podcast listeners. We, DM Productions, have a 2-day Catholic social media makeover course. It's an online course specifically made for Catholic organizations. It will take your social media to the next level. And we make it easier than ever with our step-by-step video walkthroughs, cheat sheets, customizable templates, and more. Catholic organizations, let's start creating the quality and results that secular businesses have, but with the depth and beauty of Catholicism. Oh, and did I mention the price? $700. But remember I said I was going to let you in on a little secret? Use code DMPodcast to get it completely free. No credit card required. Just pop that code in and you're all set. Head over to www.dm.productions/social media makeover or click the link in the description. Now back to the show. What was your family's response to the call?
I admire my mother so much because neither my father nor my mother put up any resistance. They said, well, if that's what you feel you need to do. Now, remember, I'm the oldest of 5. So if I was 17, the youngest ones were about 6.
I'm the oldest of 5 too, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
And she could have used the help.
Yeah, for sure.
But instead what happened is my senior year, because she knew we were going to be needing more money for college and other things, she was able to get a job. And I think what helped out then is she already, the other kids were kind of learning to take care of themselves a little bit too, because she worked during the day. And although they were young, they still, there were still 4 of them to look out for each other.
Yeah.
So it really worked out. But when I think about it, it had to be a real sacrifice for her to give me up when I would have been able to do a lot more helping. On the other hand, if I had gone away to college, I wouldn't have been there either.
Yeah, exactly.
So in some ways, as much as you don't like to think about it, when your son or daughter is a senior in high school, you may be starting to lose them as part of, immediate part of the family.
Right.
Not everybody, but
they don't want to let go.
And they were always proud of me after that. They always supported me. So
what did your siblings think?
Well, my sister cried for several weeks. But again, I know she would have if I had gone away to college too. And so, it took them a while to adapt. A couple years after I entered, though, my mother's mother, my grandmother, was widowed, and she came and lived with them. So in a way, I don't say she took my place, but there was another person there, and that helped them out. She only lived a couple of years before she passed away. but I think that probably helped them to accept that I wasn't around. We didn't visit a whole lot at the beginning when I first entered. It's much different now. I can see them often and talk with them and everything else. But yeah, the novitiate was a little restricted, and so it was hard at first.
Yeah, how has like being a sister changed from when you started until like right now? What changes have you seen?
Where do I start? So I wore the full habit for a number of years. We were slower at adapting. The Sisters of Notre Dame were slower at adapting. Some people changed right away into suits or other things. We kept the habit, although we modified it, had shorter skirts and had our hair showing and that. We eventually changed to wearing simple, regular clothes. We don't try to keep up with the fashion. Don't have to worry about any of those things that other women worry about all their life, and trying to stay younger looking and all of those things doesn't matter to us, But the basic things of centering your life around the Eucharist, the Mass, praying the Rosary, and other devotions to Mary, and other personal things, that part of it hasn't really changed. And as far as ministry goes, there are just more opportunities now. For the most part, when I entered, we were in schools. We were in many parish schools, elementary schools, some college teachers, and a lot of us in high school. And now there aren't that many of us that are able to do it anymore. But we have sisters that do social work. We have sisters that work in parishes as like secretaries, DREs, all kinds of other things. We don't have too many in nursing. That was never really our particular ministry. It always tended toward education. But we have artists, we have musicians, we have writers. So it's been opened up a little more. I think it's more interactive with people in the world, more opportunities. So, but the basics of the vows and the, your interior prayer life and all that hasn't changed. So.
Do you get to choose which job you're going to have, or do they just, you're going to be a secretary, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to do this? In
the beginning, yeah, it was more of that, where they would kind of talk with you and say, well, you have great skills in meeting with people and secretarial things. We think you would be good as a parish secretary or this or that, And then as far as teaching, I just kind of knew that as much as I do love little kids, I didn't think I could teach them. I could play with them, I could do things. And then, so I always gravitated toward high school. And other sisters would say, high school, those big kids, I want to work with those little ones and teach them how to read and everything. So, you do have kind of callings within the calling to certain aspects as well. Yeah.
Is there like a specific memory that you have of teaching high school, one that sticks out?
Oh, I have very many. I am just really proud of how many students I had, a little piece of influence in their life, and they've gone on to wonderful things. We have graduates from here that are doctors, that are lawyers. We have one that was the pilot for Air Force One for a while. We have people who've been missionaries to other countries. It's amazing what people have done with their lives. And I know that I had some little influence in there, because they came to my class for a year, or they were in my homeroom day after day for a while, and some remember you well, and others, they don't remember as well. But once in a while I'll meet someone and they'll say, oh, you were one of my favorite teachers. And it just helps you to realize that you did have an impact on a lot of people.
Definitely. Teachers are very, very important.
So,
what's that process look like, and how long did it take to become a Sister of Notre Dame?
Basically, in our community now, it's roughly 8 years. It could be a little bit longer. So when a person
when you said you were 17, that's when you started that 8-year process?
I turned 18 during my postulant year.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a postulant for 1 year.
Okay.
And then I became a novice. And there are 2 years of novitiate. One is called a canonical year, and that's the year, because it's in canon law, that you have to live in a house of the congregation. You have to learn certain things and prepare for making your first vows. And then your second year as a novice, you can be sent out to do some ministry and things as well, but you're still preparing for the vows.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, after about 3 years, you're able to make your first vows. And we do those for a year at a time until generally, again, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, so for me, if it was like 8 years, I was 25 or so when I made my final vows, my perpetual vows. And from there on, then, you have time to, you continue to grow. It's ongoing formation all your life,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
doing spiritual reading, listening to podcasts, reading scripture studies, taking classes. We provide a lot of that for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I know there's a lot of people, we talked with some people recently that vocation, the devil hates vocations and like actually getting to the vocation and committing to it. Were there parts along that journey that it's just like, wow, the devil is really after me here. He's trying to throw me off course? Or were you just like, you were locked into the grace and you knew that just throughout the whole thing?
Well, I mentioned that grace is what enabled me to go through all the different things. Certainly it was difficult to lose people that I admired in those early years of my own formation and vocation.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that the devil made them do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they were following what they felt God was asking of them, and that perhaps it was for them to be a sister for a while. I mean, I don't know of any of them who've ever said they regretted being a sister for a while.
Mm-hmm.
They felt that it was enriching and it helped them to be a better person, whether they married or stayed single or whatever they did with the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then there are other times when, I've been in school situations where there are some difficulties and things. Everybody gets tempted sometimes to be discouraged, to maybe want to give up, or to think, why am I getting up at 5 every morning, praying for an hour, doing all this, and then I'm dog tired at night. Maybe there's something else I could be doing that wouldn't be so hard. So yeah, everybody has their own temptations, some because of their family backgrounds, some, other things that have happened along the way that they have to deal with. And so, yeah, I know that they talk a lot about after a while in religious life, things can become routine. And like with anything, and you can get kind of tired of it. But I think that's why we move around occasionally. Now, I, of course, have not moved that much. It's just been the way my life has gone. But many other sisters, after 5 or 6 years, they would be transferred to somewhere else. And that, is actually a boost to your vocation, because you then learn new ways of communicating with people. Now, maybe you moved into a parish where the pastor is very difficult. It's usually a conflict of personalities. It's not so much, wouldn't say that it's demonic or anything. It's just that circumstances will come together sometimes that test everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we say, some of the students I've had, they didn't keep me on my toes. They kept me on my knees. Had to pray for them a little bit more. So.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned getting up at 5 to pray. What is the schedule like? Oh,
it really differs for people. I would say many of us are retired now, and getting up at 5 isn't what you do anymore. But in the years when you had to be at school by 7, you wanted to get up, you had to get yourself ready. And then, you wanted to pray your prayers in the morning while you were still, it sounds weird. Okay, you were less tired early in the morning than you were at night when you came home from
Yeah.
ministry, especially if you had meetings or wanted to go to students' games or plays or, other activities like that. Sometimes you didn't get home until later at night, and it's not easy to pray prayers at 10 o'clock at night for me. I'm more tired.
Nor for you either. Like, we'll
No,
be
I
trying
have
to
a
go to
rule.
bed, and I'm like, oh, we forgot to pray. And he's like, shh. Like, we're done. Just make it really quick, and we want to go to sleep because you're so, like, drained by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because then I'll pray, and then that reminds me of something else,
Yeah.
and then now I'm praying for the whole world, and it's like I don't know when to shut this down.
Oh, there's so much to pray for. It's always, and we have a prayer line up at the convent, so people call in, and then we have a board where we post all these things. Sometimes it's the person's name, sometimes it isn't, but pray for Bob who's undergoing cancer surgery, pray for so-and-so who's on hospice and dying of this or that. So yeah, and we'll all take time occasionally to just go and read all of these different things, and then we remember them in our mass and other things. We pray specifically for those who've asked for our prayers or who have used the prayer line or something. So that's another ministry for sisters who've been retired from active classroom work and other ministries.
I honestly
do that.
didn't think that nuns could retire. Like, that's just, I didn't know.
Well, I'm not retired really. We try to do something as long as we can. When you have sisters who are quite ill, or are bedridden or those kind of things, obviously the best they can do is they pray. And they do pray for all the needs of the world. So we never really give up any kind of ministry or mission. Always on mission, that's what we say. Yeah. Always on mission.
Yeah, I don't know. Retire just feels like a weird word for anybody religious. Because it's not like they stop praying and stop going to mass. Like, what happens when they retire? Like, they just kind of slowly move away from like their day-to-day job?
Well, yes. If let's say you've been at a parish and you were the secretary there and that, and you can't do it anymore for whatever reasons, you might move out here. You might still stay in one of our houses that's near there, but you find other things to do. Nobody really sits around watching TV all day or whatever you might think, Occasionally we watch a TV or a movie. We could go shopping and, get things for people. We visit, we call people. There's many things. And then also just within the community, visiting the sisters that are sick, helping out in whatever ways you can. It's a lot of hidden little things people do.
Yeah.
And, you don't realize it so much until something happens and they don't do it anymore. And like, oh, she used to do that all the time. Someone else has to step up and take care of it. So, it's like in a family, when you have an elderly person that might be living with you, they still maybe try to help peel the vegetables or, do something that's still contributing in a sense to the whole. And so that's basically what we do. Now, in the past, well, it started in 2020. We had 4 provinces in the United States. We had Chardon, or the Cleveland province, as it was called. Originally, we were more towards in the city, and now we're out in Chardon. We had Toledo, we had Covington, Kentucky, and we have California, Thousand Oaks, which is close to Los Angeles. So because our numbers were decreasing, sadly, we decided to come together. So we are now the Sisters of Notre Dame of the United States, SND USA, we call it. And so we've done a lot more now with we call it regions now instead of provinces, interregional transfers. There are sisters who come from one area and go and minister for a time in another area. We have leadership that comes from all 4 areas and they get together. So it's really helped in the sense of us feeling more as one than when we were 4 separate provinces.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference now too. It's, I don't want to make this a vocation talk or anything, But there are so many wonderful things that you can do as a religious sister, and I wish more people would consider it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we only have about 4 people in formation. Our house formation is in Toledo right now, so it has been in each of the areas. We sometimes, and they do travel to the other areas to know the whole province.
Mm-hmm.
But one of them is a nurse. She's doing quite well. Another one was an engineer before she entered. She's now studying theology. She wants to work in that area. And I think the third one is also had a job before, and I'm not sure what she's doing right now. And then some other women that are interested, and they come to different weekends. You can come and do what we call a live-in. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything like that when I was young. It was, I think I'm going to try religious life, but I don't really know all that the sisters do.
Yeah.
Just from what I can see from them being my teacher or being in the parish or whatever. So there's more opportunity for discernment. Mm-hmm. And really, they're not younger women that are coming. It's too hard to come like right after high school and that. It's much better if you've got some education, had some experience, maybe working at other things, so that maybe it's a more realistic choice in this world today. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
What about I know somebody that they're not really, I don't know, they're not necessarily called to religious life at this moment. I mean, they're pretty young, but they're not opposed to it. And so it's like this interesting kind of dynamic of them not knowing fully. Like, it seems like you had a call when you were in the 4th grade, 8th grade, and there was these little seeds that have been planted, but they don't necessarily have a call. They just, they're
open to the idea.
They're open to the idea.
Right. But that's why our vocation and discernment ministries, they sponsor what they call come and see weekends, ministry to young adults. And it can be men and women that come to these, and it's like a retreats and things where they have a chance to think about it, discern, listen to other people, talk with other people. Mm-hmm. And from those, some of them have joined religious orders or joined the priesthood, and others, it's like, I really think I am called to married life. I think the way God wants me to work in the world and save myself and others is through marriage and maybe raising children. So, any way to God is a good way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so some of us are just called to be a little more consecrated, set apart a little bit, but not really. We're not really set apart. It's just that this is what kind of makes our whole life. And sharing that. And, I can do that in a way because I don't have family responsibilities.
Yeah.
I can do things. I can go places. I can, because I don't have a family that has immediate needs for me every day.
When, I don't know when this got brought up, but it was someone saying, like, why can't Catholic priests, get married? You would have so many more Catholic priests if you would allow marriage, and that is why,
Well, you mentioned that you've talked to priests about it too. Their life is really ministerial in the sense of the sacraments, counseling people, all of those things. They could possibly manage a family as well as that. The parish then would be where there are other lay people who help run the parish, and the priest is more there as the sacramental minister, and that might help. Otherwise, having to do everything, and it is difficult.
Yeah.
Ministers do it in other Protestant churches and stuff, but they find it difficult too.
And the Byzantine church.
And Byzantine. Yeah. So it's a possibility. I mean, life in a sense keeps getting easier all the time. There are more and more things that
automated
that do stuff for us that used to take a lot of time. And so it's possible.
But I think with like other churches, like usually Byzantine churches, at least ones that I've been to, they're very, very small. But for like Catholic churches, like when we go to St. Helens, it's a big congregation. So to have, the priest, number one priority be like his immediate family, and then have to attend to all of the, members of the church on top of that, that's a lot,
And maybe one of the things you said, maybe more men would become priests if they could be married. Maybe that would help with the situation, that there wouldn't be one priest in charge of, 500 families or whatever it might be, for a given parish. There would spread it around a little bit more. I don't know what God has in mind for the future. None of us do. Yeah. There've been constant change and evolution over the many years of the church's history, and I don't know if it's each generation, but every so often we renew ourselves in a certain aspect. When I would teach world religions and other Christian churches and stuff, many of the Protestant churches focus on one aspect of things more than others. So, for example, preaching, or they focus on social work, things like the Salvation Army and that, very, very justice and social oriented. In the Catholic Church, we want to do everything. We are Catholic, universal. We want to do everything, and it's, it sometimes spreads you kind of thin. So the more people that can help with it, the better it is. Yeah. So, yeah.
Speaking of ministries and like the works that you've done, have you gone to, I don't know, maybe out of the country, or even if it's in country, to go do some sort of ministry work that has really stood out? Actually,
I have not. The most of the ministry to the poor and things like that have been local. I did go to Rome for training for formation when I worked as the novice director, and I visited some of our country's history, so around in there. But as far as local, I'm on the board of the Geauga Hunger Task Force, so we help supply money and funds and things for all the local pantries. I've worked at a project for people getting their GEDs, so education to those who, some have come from jail, some from drug programs and things, and helping them to try to start a new life by learning that. I've helped in soup kitchens any number of times, so most of mine has been local work. But a number of our sisters have been to our missions in India, Africa. A number of sisters recently have gone down to the border to help minister to the thousands of people that have nothing, and just help give them food and other things down there. So, we do sponsor or let our sisters do all kinds of things. Just depends on what you feel you're called to. So,
no, that's awesome. I love the story about, like, you didn't really need to go anywhere. You're impacting the place here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And through our school, we have a program called Labra, which on every Tuesday, we bring students and some teachers down, and they have an area where they meet with the people. They bring them food, but they interact with them. They talk with them. They play with the kids. They do all kinds. It's a personal thing. It's not just, here, have some food, and good luck. Keep warm and well fed, as it says in the scripture. No, it's much more of a personal relationship. We've had them come here, a few of them, to meet with our kids too. So it's trying to find the ways that you best can use your talents and gifts to help other people.
Yeah, I know that you loved doing Labra when you were in high school.
Oh, did you do Labra sometimes?
I actually don't think I went when I was in high school.
Oh, not when you were in high school?
I was like, hey,
by
in
the way,
college?
can I, you here? No,
Uh-huh.
I came back and was like, hey, could I actually go on that?
Oh, how nice.
So, yeah, and it is the interactions with the kids specifically on Labra. There's the one spot that there's just a ton of little kids, and there's like a little playground and they're always asking, "Can I get up on your back? Let's go run around, play, do anything." And then the older people at the different stops they're always asking the kids about stuff that they already talked about. We're like, how'd that thing go that you were
Okay.
telling me about? So there is a huge personal connection there. And yeah, they're definitely not just coming for the food.
Mhm.
They love to talk and interact with them.
And it's a commitment. They can count on somebody coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hit or miss, and it's not always somebody new, so you don't know who these people are.
Mhm.
There's a lot of regulars that go,
Mm-hmm.
and it just it seems like a small thing, but it's not small in their eyes.
No,
Mhm.
no.
Not at all.
What is the Mother Teresa quote? Like, not everybody can do great things, but you can do small things with great love.
With great love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good example of that.
And when someone said to her, I think it was something like, well, what good does it do for you to bring one person off the street and help them, die with dignity? And she said, well, it means a lot to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What good does it do? Well, it meant a lot to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we all have we get different insights. Some sisters actually work in prison ministry. They visit the jails.
Mhm.
They do a lot for helping. We recently, this is going to sound weird, but a lot of sisters, when we retire from active ministry,
Mm-hmm.
don't need suits or a lot of professional clothes anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because what we're doing doesn't require a lot of professional things.
Mhm.
And so a couple years ago, we got together and we donated a huge number of professional clothes and that to there are some organizations in Cleveland, I won't remember, the Dress for Success and some other things where people can come and get professional clothes so they can go for an interview.
Mhm.
They can do different things, and it's just little things like that come up
Yeah.
often. And we can take part in it because we're a group and we have resources, and we can do those things and encourage other people to be a part of it. Oh, I forgot one other thing. I've been with a choir. We prepare the sections from Handel's Messiah. So like this past year, this choir includes men and women from all the churches in the area, the Jaga County.
Mm-hmm.
We come together and we've been rehearsing in our chapel up at the center. And it was December 2nd this year. We did the Christmas portion of the Messiah. We sang as a choir. We were able through it's no set fee. It's just whatever you want to free will offering.
Mhm.
We raised almost $9,000 for the Hunger Task Force. So that
Wow.
money will go directly to feeding people, people with food insecurities, children with summer lunch programs, all the
Mhm.
stuff that we sponsor through that. And that's a way, again, of using a talent you have. I'm a good singer, so I join the choir and I give up, time to practice on those Sundays before and then
Mhm.
do the concert. And there it is, So I'm there with all kinds of men and women who also have good hearts and want to help out. So I could probably think of 20 more things if I sit here long enough, but it's just you look for the opportunities, and when it moves your heart to do it, you do it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the young people are wanting to do more of that too.
Yeah.
I find that they're, they think, well, that would be a good thing to do. And, they jump on it. In some cases, they'll design a T-shirt for some cause
Mm-hmm.
and then sell the shirts, and whatever money they raise, it goes to whatever this cause was,
Mhm.
So we have things often going on here that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And just listening to the call and like the tug on your heart from the Holy Spirit of like, hey, do this thing, or like maybe you should lean over here and do the thing over there. And and it's just powerful to say yes to it, because it's very easy to just like, because it's just a soft little tug, and it's very easy just to push it off and do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, sometimes you have to step out of your, what they call comfort zone, to do some of these things.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've never done this before. I don't know if I can do it. Well, other people have done it, and maybe you can link up with them. So you don't have to start it all off on your own. We can't all be Mother Cabrini's or Mother Teresa's who started all the things, but we can join in and help the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
What does your prayer life look like? Is it like, I don't even know, like, is that, it sounds weird. Do you have to have like a set number of time that you're praying, like 3 hours a day at least for the Sisters of Notre Dame?
I would say it was a little more regulated like that when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had to do 15 minutes of spiritual reading and this and that. Now we do come together for Mass most days. We don't on Saturday. We either have a Saturday vigil or a Sunday Mass. We don't have a Saturday morning Mass.
Mm-hmm.
But every other day of the week we have Mass together. And many times before that we have adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, and a lot of sisters will be in there. Now, when I go there, sometimes I'm praying my rosary. Sometimes I'm praying my evening prayer. Sometimes I'm just praying and listening and talking to God,
Mm-hmm.
So I can't always make it a full hour before, but I try at least to be there a half hour before, if not, and then the Mass after that.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning, like I said, when I get up and take my shower and that kind of thing, then that's when I pray. I pray my morning prayer, and I have some other books that are I have a couple that are a thought each day of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a reflection on the scripture for the day, or they're just following a certain, just different teachings for that. So I use that time, which is, I would say, at least half an hour, just to relax and pray before I have some breakfast, and then come down here to, to school on the days that I come.
Mm-hmm.
And then I usually pray rosary in between. I like to pray the rosary because it's a dual sort of prayer. It's vocal, but it's also thinking about what the mysteries are and what the intentions are that I have to pray for that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I use that time as well. And then, other things, it just all depends. But those are my regulars. Morning prayer with, whatever devotions there, rosary during the day sometime, and then evening prayer, adorations, and Mass.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the bare minimum, I would say. And then, if I'm traveling in the car, I'm usually praying a rosary or something while I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I listen to, holy music and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, you not to be a distracted driver, just to have something like that, So that's what my prayer life looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, reconciliation, maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm.
We make a retreat every year. We are allowed a full week of retreat. So sometimes people go away for the retreats. I often go to the building across the street we have here, the retreat center, because I like to just be around and, relax and enjoy time with God.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are some of the things.
Mm-hmm. What does the Blessed Mother mean to you?
Oh, she's always been special to me, I would say. When I was younger, I related to her more as a mother, Blessed Mother.
Mm-hmm.
And once I became a sister of Our Lady, I could relate to her more as a sister, as a relation sister, not a religious sister, but if she is my sister, and going through things like that. And now I think of her in many different ways. I think of what her life must have been like, as she was a young mother, and as she saw what happened through the life of her son. And when she lived to be older and could reflect back, I can relate to that part of it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say my relationship changes with her over the years, but I've always had some devotion to her, and especially through the Rosary.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And of course, as Sisters of Notre Dame, we celebrate all the special Mary feasts. Our congregational feast day is the Annunciation. That's all our sisters all over the world. And then our patroness for the United States is Immaculate Conception. So December 8th is another special day for us. You know, we have special liturgy, we have special meals together and things. So make it very festive.
Have you ever been to the Servants of Mary Center for Peace?
Oh, yes.
That's where we had our wedding reception, where he proposed to me, and where we had our third date, and I worked there when I was young. So that's a very, very special place to me.
Oh, that tall statue of it's a beautiful statue.
Yeah.
Oh, I've taken groups there. I've been there numerous times myself. It's very moving and out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a hidden gem, but it's
it is. I mean,
amazing.
You know, you just all of a sudden you're there, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then they have the smaller buildings around it too.
Yeah.
You know? The lady Pat Hines.
Yeah.
She's part of the Messiah Choir. She's been singing with us and doing part of that as well.
I love Pat. She's so sweet. She's like a grandma to me.
Yes, she is. But there are a lot of connections. We have a lot of connections. But yeah, she's been a part of that too. So
yeah, everybody needs to go there. It's so amazing. Like we wanted to have our reception there regardless, but it was so nice to just show it to everybody that's never been there before, and they're like, I've lived like 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from this my whole life, and I didn't know it was here. And
right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's true. It is a hidden gem.
Yeah, there's just something special that, and maybe it even has to do with the fact that it's so hidden, is that you're kind of driving into the middle of nowhere, then you just hook a turn, and then boom, there's like this. Right
next to the Amish neighbors, like, am I in the wrong place? What's going on?
Well, it's quiet around there. It's, not a lot of distraction. And that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I love the National Cathedral in Washington. I love that. But it's right in the middle of all the life that's going on around it. Once you get inside, because it's so big, you kind of shut out the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But for this, you don't have to shut it out.
You take it all in,
It's
so nice.
Just there. It's really lovely.
Well, I'm glad to know that you've been there a lot.
Oh, many. I 20 times. I don't know. It's numerous times. Lovely spot.
Yeah, I remember my brothers and we would work there in the summers, so we would do landscaping. There's beautiful grounds there, but it's a lot of upkeep. Like, it's a lot.
Oh gosh, yeah. All those lamps around the rosary.
Weed whacking, picking up like branches that had fallen down, like fixing. People knock stuff over and are very, very rude, but it's just, I wouldn't have traded that job for anything. He was so nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And I know my brothers. It was a lot of fun memories there too.
Good. That's good.
Can you talk about the role of Catholic education within the church? I mean, you've been around Catholic education and for a while, and then like your call to it. I wonder what your perspective is on just like the role of Catholic education and how that plays into the Catholic Church.
Well, there are a lot of aspects to it. So yes, I've devoted my whole life to teaching, especially high school. But Catholic education helps people form their values very young. When they're able to be in a Catholic elementary school, for example, they learn their prayers. They remember things. When you're young, you're very open to things, and so you take a lot of it in.
Yeah, it's like a sponge. You
and
just soak up all of it.
Sometimes it remains dormant for a while. Sometimes people will go through a time when they say, "Oh, religion, church isn't important to me. I don't go to mass anymore." And then there's some point in their life, whatever might be the reason, and they come back to it, and they remember things.
Mhm.
So it's helpful to have those values already instilled in you when you're young. And if you remain in Catholic schools in high school, hopefully you get broadened to see much more of what the church is about, and what that religion and, how do I put it? Daily living is more than religion. It's, you think about God in the background, but you don't have to be religious all the time. You are helping people and acting in God's way for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's broader than just, well, I didn't say my morning prayer today, so I'm not religious. Yeah, you can still be religious without praying morning prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little harder, but, some of those values are there. And I think, in today's world, people who go to a Catholic school, in some sense, are countercultural, because we're supposed to be doing things a little differently from everybody else. And I don't mean that in any kind of pride way or anything like that. I just mean that in a world where honesty doesn't really matter that much to people, we're really trying to be honest and fair. In a world where there's a lot of racism and all the other isms and that, we're trying to be kind to people, no matter who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And, those kinds of values will always have a place. Unfortunately, Catholic education is expensive, as with any other private school. But my fondest wish is that anybody who wants it will be able to have Catholic education.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we're in schools where there are not that many Catholics, but they're learning values, and they're being better. They're better people because of having been in a place that cares.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's always going to be room for Catholic education, and I just hope that it's able to be there for everyone who wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if that will be or not. Did that help?
Yeah, I mean, and I think what's huge is there's been recent changes where they have the Angel Scholarship Fund and different government things too, where you can put your money toward your tax money or different kinds of money to relieving some of those financial burdens, which is it's just huge. I mean, St. Helens,
the
they
elementary
announced
school
that they were tuition free.
This year they were tuition free. I understand that through the Angel Fund and through, I don't even think they needed the, what's it called? EdChoice? EdChoice program. And the vouchers and things have helped all along too. So,
That's just so amazing to have, to not have to worry about that. And then I know for my family, when I was growing up, that just wasn't an option to put me in Catholic school. But, if that would have been around when I was in elementary school and high school, middle school, whatever, I know that my education would have been a lot different. So it's just really nice that there's that opportunity now.
And God works with you anyway.
Oh,
right?
for sure. I mean, I'm definitely on the path that I'm supposed to be on.
Yeah.
But I'm glad
well,
that's...
and there used to be so many more religious sisters. Religious sisters helped build the whole parochial school system in the United States, and the hospital system, the Catholic hospitals. They worked for next to nothing because in their lives they lived poverty, and it wasn't important to have a ton of money. And yet, we have to keep the institutions on a par with all the others. Otherwise, no one wants to come to your school if you're just using a chalkboard and whatever. So you have to keep up the standards, and you have to hire people who have the professional skills and all. And so then all of that costs money, and that's why the education costs more too. And it's just it's something all Catholic schools work on all the time. Building endowments and trying to have enough money so that they can help as many people as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was great to hear your story and just the different things that we discussed throughout the whole episode. Is there any final thoughts or things that you want to say?
I'm just grateful for this opportunity because, there used to be so many more sisters out there that you could talk to people and learn. And there are a lot of Catholics who have not met a sister, have not had a chance to talk to her, or, with a priest, they might get a little chance to talk to them, but again, they're so busy, so that there's an aspect that they're missing in their lives, just to be able to talk to someone who, for whom religion and God, Jesus especially, has just become really the center of their whole life, and how they would like to find a way to have some of that in their lives too. So I'm hoping that this podcast will reach some people, and I'd be happy to talk with people afterwards if they'd like to contact me through school or whatever it might be.
Where can they contact you?
Well, probably through the school here. I have an email. It's emilia.castelletti@ndcl.org. Or you can just look up the faculty and my name will show up there.
Okay.
And they could contact me that way. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I hope I met your whatever you were hoping to find in this.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.